We're going to get spicy here in a minute. We've got a lot of energy is going to be coming at you. I'm bouncing off the walls. I've had coffee already this morning. Alex is here. She's going to bounce with us for a little bit, and she's going to talk to us a little bit about PPE. So I'm not gonna hog all the time. This is her time. So Alex, how are you this morning?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful, doing wonderful. So Alex is going to share with us. She's got some slides. We're on camera, smiling and energetic, and you guys are going to feel this caffeine rush that we have this morning. So Alex, I'm here to just kind of help you through. So if you need me, tag me in. I don't know if you watch a lot of wrestling, but I watched a lot as a kid. So if you need me, I'm here, tag me in. All right.
Oh, honey, I sure will. I love wrestling. I totally grew up on 80s and 90s, 2000s, all of it, all the wrestling, all of it.
for about 5 years, you couldn't tell me that I wasn't the Ultimate Warrior. I had strings on my arms and everything.
Seriously. Yes. I connect with that. Yeah. And definitely I'm going to tag you in because I love having the audience engaged. I'm definitely going to be asking the people who are watching to give us some great feedback and to interact with this presentation, because I'm going to be talking all about PPE. And it's not the PPE that we are thinking of. It stands for passion, peace, and empowerment. And I am a nurse, I'm a teacher, I'm all about holistic health and wellness. And I really wanted to touch on this area of burnout and stress and overwhelm within the healthcare familia, in the healthcare family. But this translates into so many other things and so many different areas, because so many people in those giving professions and even just caregivers are experiencing this. So teachers, healthcare professionals, social workers, police officers, anybody on the front lines, anybody in healthcare, but also those people, the moms and dads at home that are having to take care of loved ones. This can affect you, and you can have an issue in this area of PPE. So I'm going to share with you exactly what it is and what I'm talking about, and some to how you can even know, do I even have a problem with my PPE? And then how we can start making some changes in that for yourself, which will translate into so many other parts of your life, right? We're talking about holistic health. So we're talking about the whole thing. So the inner environment and the outer environment. So your life, your family, your job, your career, all those parts of spice that I talk about, the spirit, the physical, the insight, the self-awareness, your career, and your emotional health. So that's what we're going to get down to today in this presentation. How does that sound? Sound spicy?
I hit the mute button. Sorry. Sounds great to me.
That's all right. I'm going to get my presentation up here, rocking and rolling. Let me fool around with this a little bit here. Whoops. And go back one. So what is PPE? And how do we find it? So like I said, PPE stands for passion, peace, and empowerment. And we're going to talk about in life, at work, and in the home, because that is where this is going to affect you the most. So how do you know you might be experiencing an issue with your PPE? So we're going to start with the first P, which is passion. And as I'm going through these different things, feel free to write in the chat. And if somebody wants to kind of just shout out at me what people are commenting, or if they're commenting, what you see as an issue in this area. And if you're getting some ideas by these words that I'm using, if something else is kind of hitting you. So you might have an issue with your PPE if your passion is not in check. And so you might be noticing you are unhappy, you are unmotivated, unfulfilled, uninterested. You are lifeless, pretty much. You have no zest, no spice, right, in your life. There's no joy, there's no happiness. You are uncaring, you are unexcited, right? All of those things. And I don't know if some other words are hitting you, or maybe you are starting to think, and this is what I want you to look within. And that's what I talk about with the eye of spice, looking within and really checking in with yourself. Are you having an issue in any of these areas? Is there something that's kind of really ringing a bell with you or resonating with you in this area? Then that might be an indicator that you're having an issue with this part of your PPE, with the passion part. Does any of that kind of, you feel that, Tim?
I'm feeling it.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's what I noticed with a lot of caregivers, a lot of teachers, a lot of healthcare professionals. This can be one area where you're really impacted, and it really affects your performance at work and how you show up at home and in life. So the next one is peace. So how do I know if I'm having trouble with the peace part of my PPE? And maybe you're feeling restless, or you're feeling some distress, and that can be emotional, physical, spiritual. Maybe things are just not feeling natural to you. Things are just, you're forcing everything. Things are very unnatural. You're jumpy, you're anxious. Maybe you're feeling depressed or sad. And maybe you feel like there's no alignment. And alignment kind of seems like a woo-woo kind of word that not a lot of people are familiar with. But, when I talk about alignment, I just mean your direction, right? Think about a car, and is it aligned or is it not aligned, right? Sometimes you hit those bumps and you got to get that alignment. You got to straighten things out. So that's exactly what I want you to start thinking about with this. And we all hit those big potholes, right? We all hit those big potholes in our life. And some roads, right? We're going to take a trip and we put the thing in the GPS and we're following the road. And some of those roads are going to be filled with a lot of potholes. And then maybe the next day you go on another trip, and it's summer vacation and you're hitting the highway and all the roads are smooth. That's life, right? So be looking out for those potholes, thinking about your alignment and what direction are you in. And if you're just feeling like you're hitting hole after hole after hole and things are just not making any sense to you, this might be an area where you need to address the peace part of your PPE. Okay. We're going to move on to empowerment. And empowerment is a strength word. It's a powerful word. So are you feeling maybe weak? And again, I want you to start thinking about these things at work, but also at home and in your real life. Okay. Are you feeling weak? Are you feeling there is no purpose? Maybe you feel unrecognized, like you're not even there, disempowered or powerless. And maybe there is no self-worth and a lot of self-doubt. And I know for myself, that was a lot of work I had to do within myself as growing up and, assuming a role as a nurse and a doctor pretty soon. Like a lot of that self-doubt, a lot of that self-worth comes into play. And rejected, maybe you just feel rejected. And every time you try to do something, people are just shutting you down. And maybe you are feeling isolated, and isolation can be one of the worst, most damaging things that can happen to you psychologically. And that psychological impact impacts all the physical things that go along with it. And it has been proven, and I have seen it in the many, many years that I've been in healthcare, that can have such an impact. So maybe you're feeling isolated and you're surrounded by people all day, right? How can you be isolated? And that's another part that people don't take as seriously, I think, or shut other people down when they say they feel lonely and they say they feel sad. And they're like, well, how can you be that way? Because you're surrounded by people all day long and you're doing this and doing that. No, it is very easy to be isolated in a room full of people. You feel alone. And so sometimes it happens to us in our workplaces that we just feel entirely isolated and nobody understands you. And that can lead to that can really damage how you feel about yourself and impact that self-worth. And this is all under that empowerment part. So how can we start making changes in your PPE? So now we've kind of identified what the different parts are and some of the signs and the symptoms, right? We're all medical talking here, right? So how can we start making some changes? So the next couple slides are going to be all about how can we start making changes. And one of them is looking at the passion part. And I kind of want to see, can I do this? Oh, we got so many people. I'm trying to see how I can move this, the passion part. So journaling is one really great way to spark and bring that passion into your life, because you really want to start exploring your feelings. And journaling can look so many different ways to so many different people. And it can be paper, digital, it can be video. You want to do something that's going to work for you. And you want to talk to someone, right? So like addressing that isolation part, talking to somebody about your feelings can really help you work through a lot of that. Affirmations, doing those positive affirmations and just going into that self-talk. And I'm going to talk about that in another slide as well, but having some positive affirmations, a script that you can turn to hype yourself up. You got to be the hype man of your own life. You got to be hyping yourself up, right? So having those affirmations and getting affirmations that are specific to you, that are going to hype you up, because it's all about bringing passion back to your life, your career, what you have going on. And accomplishments. This is one of the activities that I have people who work with me do, and I talk about it all the time and suggest everyone make a list of accomplishments for yourself. I was talking to Tafiro. I was on Tafiro and Phil show, and we were talking about this. Make a list of accomplishments for yourself and write down every single thing that you are proud of that you have done in your life, because we discount ourselves so much, and we discount what we do at work and we discount what we do at home. And you've done so much over your lifetime. And it's really easy to forget about it in the rush of the days and what's going on and all the things going on. You forget about yourself. So this is a really great way to bring back that passion back to your life. And looking at your hobbies and your interests. What did you used to like to do when you were younger for fun? What do you do for fun now? And a lot of people are missing that part of your life. And that is really, if you're looking at yourself holistically, you need to have that part of your life. You need to have that free time for your brain, for your emotions, so that you can still have some love for life, is looking at that. So really thinking back, what did I used to do for fun? Am I having any fun in my life now? So that's one really great way. And answering the dreaded question that, you ask yourself this: who am I? And it comes at different parts of people's lives, but at some point you're like, who am I? What am I doing with my life? What is happening? And really having an answer for that, right? Knowing your purpose and what you're all about, and really diving into that PPE part of your life. What is happening? Who am I? So that's for that passion part. For the peace part, I want you to look at your routines and your habits, right? And all of this month, I've been talking about routines and habits. And those are really what kind of define our day to day. That's our routines and our habits and what we're doing. And if you're in a place where you are unhappy and unmotivated and you got problems with your PPE, then it's your routines and your habits that are directly impacting that. So really take a good look at those and be honest and start finding ways for yourself to break through those old thought patterns, old thought routines and habits and what you got going on. Writing a new script, looking at those accomplishments, that is going to really be able to allow you to create that new routine, something that's going to create more peace and more balance in your life, more happiness, more fulfillment. Okay. And then also looking at alternative and complementary therapies are really going to help with this peace part of your life. So looking at exercise or moving your body with purpose, that's another way I like to say it. Meditation, deep breathing, aromatherapy, sound therapy, animal therapy. I have a really great resource that I can give the viewers. It's a really easy PDF download. It's totally free. It's my self-nurture first aid kit. And it walks you step by step how to make a self-nurture first aid kit for yourself. It's a real tangible item. It's great for anchoring and grounding if you're somebody that has a lot of anxiety or stress like that. And it walks you step by step through how to make it, what it is. And it pretty much does sound, it is the self-nurture first aid kit. It addresses all of these parts that we talked about in this section here. And it's great to do for yourself, but I also recommend for doing it with your family and for having kids to have their own self-nurture first aid kit. I recommend teachers to have some type of self-nurture first aid kit. So I've used this as a clinical activity with my nursing students. So it really doesn't matter what profession you're in, you can really tailor this because we're all human. We're all human. We all need some first aid. We all need a self-nurture first aid kit. And then my download also has a travel version that you can make a travel version for yourself of this. So you can take it in the car, you can take it in the airplane. So you can have these things available to you that will help keep your PPE in check while you're on the road. And
That's
like I said,
awesome.
yeah, it's a free download I have. So reach out to anybody on the Kidney Trails team and then get hold of me and we can send that over to you right away. And then the last part, the empowerment part, is setting boundaries. And holy moly, how important is setting boundaries, right? And one of the things when I have open and close here, what I mean is, what time do you open up to the world? And what time do you close? And I do a comparison to a store, right? Like, what time does a store open for everybody? And what time does a store close? You got to think about yourself the same way. You got to have opening and closing hours because you need that space for yourself. And then when are you going to open up to the world and let all that other outside stuff in that's going to influence you, right? You got to take care of yourself first. So that's a huge part of setting. One of the things that you can easily do to start setting boundaries for yourself around that time is just, when do you open and when do you close? And that works for everybody, for everybody. And creating a support system for yourself. This is how you're really going to set yourself up for success. This is all about empowering yourself. And who can you call on? And sometimes we're afraid to reach out for support or ask for help. And that kind of goes with the next one underneath it of the don't isolate. You know, don't isolate yourself. Create that support system, ask people for help. And there's going to be times in our lives where we need more help than others. And there's going to be times in your life where you're going to be available to help other people and not be so available to help other people. So stay in connection with people, set yourself up for success, create a support system that's going to make you successful in empowering yourself, and make connections with coworkers, with leadership, with family, friends, with a community. Just like Kidney Trails, you need to empower yourself. And the only way you can empower yourself is if you take that step to make those connections with those people that you're working with your, if you have people above you, with leadership. But if you are the leader, you need to be building connections. It's such a huge part of being a leader, making connections with those people that you're in contact with day in and day out, connecting with your family, connecting with your friends, you know, enlisting them into your support system, bringing them up and letting them know that you do need their help, and building those relationships and connecting with other people. And that's what's great about what Kidney Trails is doing with the summit right now. We are connecting to people all over the world and creating an amazing community of people that are going to support you in your PPE, right? So that's why we're doing this, so that we can support you in all of this. And that's my PPE presentation.
All right, all right. Now I know I have some questions for you. We're gonna get some questions in here, and we're gonna have a conversation here. One thing about PPE that I loved is that the PPE is for everyone. It's not just you have to be a doctor to get PPE. You have to be no. This is for everybody, and everyone can apply this to their lives.
Mm-hmm.
So my question to you is, at what point in time did you decide, hey, look, I'm starting the SPICE program and it's going to be based off of these steps?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think it probably was about 2 years ago or so, where I really started thinking about my nursing practice and about my teaching in a more holistic way, because I found for myself that that's what I was missing. And I had, my youngest son is 4, and I'll take you back and get real right now. My youngest son is 4, and I have a 17-year-old, a 14-year-old, and a 4-year-old. And so when I was giving birth to my 4-year-old, I actually gave birth to him at the hospital that I currently was working at. And at that time I was doing ICU nursing, which is most of what I've done my entire career. And so I was in the ICU working, never went to labor and delivery, never knew nothing about it, never had an interest to know anything about it. But as a patient, as being somebody admitted and being a patient and being on the other side when I had not been really hospitalized for anything over the course of my life up until, except for my other kids that I had, but this experience was so different for me. And I think it was so different because before I had always had a midwife, I'd always done things very naturally. And this time they considered me advanced maternal age because I was like 35. And that's like grandma years, apparently, to the medical profession. And it's ridiculous. And so I had to go all through all these tests, and I had to have an actual doctor. I couldn't have a midwife, and I had, all these special things and tests that they were doing. And I just felt like very powerless. I felt very disempowered, like we were talking about. I felt no control over what was happening to me or to my body, the situation. Nothing was going how I wanted it. And it actually ended up a very bad traumatic birth experience for me. It was very bad. Bad for me, bad for my family. My son turned out healthy. I was fine. But the whole experience was just made me think, what are we doing to our patients? Why are we treating our patients like this? Because I'm like, I'm a nurse and I got treated like this. Like, it was so unreal to me. And so ever since that happened, it just kept marinating in my brain. And then as I started going back to work and doing different travel assignments in different ICUs, I just kept seeing the same thing at every place I was going to. And I'm like, why is everybody doing things this way? And then I felt isolated, like I was the only one because I was like, we cannot be treating patients like this. Like, I know how our patients feel. And I felt terrible. I was like, I cannot be doing this. So I totally changed my practice after that happened. I totally changed how I went up to a patient's door and knocked on their door. I totally changed how I talked to them and how I interacted with them, how I organized my day and did all the nursing activities that I needed to do. Honey, I changed it all after that. And I got so many weird looks, and definitely people were not understanding what I was doing, why I was doing it. It was not vibing with the hospital and with, their quotas and what they wanted. And as it grew, I started to see how much I was standing out from the traditional practice. And then with my nursing students, I started talking to them more and more about looking at your patient as a whole person and talking to that patient. And how are you going to organize your time in your day to best serve that patient, not the other way around? What are you going to do to help the family, to help the patients? And then also teaching my students, how are you going to take care of yourselves? How is your day? What's your family situation like? Because I had raised kids and worked all throughout all the years of going to school and working full time and being in school. So I knew the struggles, and I didn't want to be one of those teachers who acted like their students were just students and just a number, just a face, whatever, a square on the screen. Like, I didn't want to be that type of nurse, that type of teacher. So I started talking to my students, and like the feedback I was getting from them was just incredible, and how much they really appreciated me treating them like people. And I'm like, well, we have to do the same things to our patients. And that's where the whole idea of SPICE and really looking at practicing holistically, in living in my life, but also practicing as a nurse and as an educator. And that's kind of how all those different parts came together. So that's why I have all those different letters, because for me, SPICE is like my head to soul assessment. So like nurses have a head to toe, I think SPICE is my head to soul assessment. And so I can use that and apply it to anybody, and really look at their PPE and see if that PPE is is doing what it's supposed to be doing or not.
Right. And you can sense it. You can sense if somebody's PPE isn't right, you're like, well, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Maybe I have to distance myself. And energy feeds off of energy. So when you treat people well, they tend to treat you well, and your day seems to go smoother. And one of the things you talked about is you and I, kindred spirits. I love routines. I love habits. I love getting new habits. So one of the things that I had to address in my life was that same kind of thing. What time am I going to bed? What time am I waking up? How long, in your terms, how long is my store open? And I noticed that when my energy wasn't right, my store was open a lot less. And there were some people that needed that energy, like my family, my wife, my kids. So talk to me a little bit about the importance of keeping your energy in your self-care.
Yeah, definitely. Self-care is one of the topics I talk about a lot, and it's so important. And the biggest misconception to get over that and to get through people is it's not selfish. It is not selfish one bit to be wanting to take care of yourself, to feed yourself, to soothe yourself, to nourish yourself. There is nothing wrong with that. And in the healthcare environment and caregiver environment, you're constantly giving and giving and giving emotionally, energetically, physically. You're giving each and every part of you that you can, and for hours and hours a day. And then you have to go home and have a family and have a husband or a wife or a girlfriend or a boyfriend, whatever it is. And you're giving more and giving more. And it's endless. It's endless. And that's why self-care is so important to renewing yourself and for keeping all of those parts of yourself in check and in balance as best you can. And some parts are going to get more attention than others at certain times, but it's all, how does it come back to you? How does it flow back to you? And self-care, I mean, self-care can look however you want it to look, right? It's whatever feeds you, whatever nourishes you, whatever makes you feel like you again and brings that passion back to your life and that peace back to your life and empowers you, then that's what your self-care routine, habit, activity should look like for yourself.
All right. And now we're going to take a second. I'm going to ask the audience if they have any questions. And if you would like to come to the stage and ask Alex a little bit about the spice life.
About spice. Yeah. Spice, people always think spice is like food related, and which I enjoy food and I enjoy cooking, which is a great self-care activity if you're down for that. But you know, spice to me is all those different parts: the spiritual, the physical, the insight, the career, and the emotion, and looking at yourself as a whole that way. And I resonate with all those different pieces and parts. And it's what I love talking about and teaching about. And I think when people start thinking about what spice really is, and then you can really start applying it to, like, you got to spice up your life and add spice. You know how I say for a balanced life, just add spice. That's like my saying, you know, and share your spice and own your spice. Like you can apply it to so many different things, and you want to start spicing things up. Yeah. You want to start adding some spice. You want to start adding all these pieces and parts of your life so that you can live the life you want and not be so stressed out, and, you know, be enjoying what you're doing and connecting with other people and living life how you want to live it. And like all these great stories that we're going to hear over the entire summit, you know, people have been given second chances, third chances, you know, and I've seen it all throughout my healthcare profession, you know, people that you think they're going to die, like they're going to die. You get that feeling and something happens and they're back and they're moving and they're grooving and they're alive. And it's the appreciation that they have for it, that somebody who has not gone through that doesn't understand that appreciation for life. And sometimes people don't always get it though, right? I mean, if we're going to keep it real, sometimes people don't always get it like that, but the majority do. And yes. So that's what I think is great about this summit, is we're going to hear from so many great people who have been through that and are an inspiration, and that are just living their life to serve others and to help others and share their story. And that's why I like talking about spice and sharing about me and what I've gone through, and caring for kidney patients, caring for dialysis patients, caring for transplant patients. And, you know, me having some kidney issues myself, I've had some issues with my kidneys, and, you know, it's just being knowledgeable about yourself, about your body, being in tune to it, right? Really doing a lot of that self-care and protecting your health and doing what you can so that, you know, you can be around to teach and to influence and to impact. And so that's what the summit is all about.
All right. And I've got a few comments I'll read to you. We've got Steve. Steve says, fantastic session. So Steve wants to say fantastic sessions for you. Emily says she loves it. And then Fred said, this is head to soul. I like that, Fred. Head to soul.
Head to soul. Head to soul. Exactly. Yeah. Head to soul. That name hit me one night. Like I literally was laying in bed and that name just, and I was like, no, that sounds silly. Isn't that how everything sounds when you get something? You're like, no, that's not gonna work. And I was like, oh, but it does kind of work because it is. It exactly is. And I just kept thinking head to toe nursing assessment, head to soul. It's the same thing. We're just going through all the systems and checking everything off and make sure everything's working how it's working. And if there's a problem, we make notice and see what we got to do about that problem. And that's why we're talking about PPE, what it is. And do you know if you got a problem in that area and what are we going to do to try to fix that? What can we try to get that back in check?
Yes. And another comment Emily says she appreciates the reminder of open and close for yourself. Mm-hmm. That's important. I've always been told you cannot pour from an empty cup. So that's what that reminded me of.
Yeah, I tried to think of a different analogy for it because I was thinking about, I have a lot of other like entrepreneurs and like small business owners that kind of vibe with me because I'm newer into my journey doing all of that. And so I'm very open about it and I talk about it a lot. And so, I've had them reach out and that's what it made me think of. Like, you might not be a store, you might not be a business, you might not have an LLC after your name or whatever it might be, but you got to think about yourself in the same way. Like, when are you going to open up to the world? And when are you going to close back up? Because you can't stay open 24 hours. Ain't enough people working for you to be for you to be open 24 hours. So when do you open and when do you close? And it sounds so simple. But you tell somebody and then they start thinking about it and then it starts making sense to you. And when are you going to open up and when are you going to close up? And I keep saying it, but it is because it can mean so many different things and you're going to interpret that how you want to interpret it, but it is. And I'm sure that there's going to be people on the summit. They're going to talk about morning routines and what they do in their day to kind of get going. And what do you do in the evening to kind of wind down before bed? Because, having a good bedtime routine is important. And also having a good morning routine is open, but just being able to identify, hey, when does Tim start? When does Tim's store open? And when is Tim's store gonna close for the day? And you're gonna be the one that flips that sign, open and close. So you gotta do it. You have to do it. And that's all a part of setting boundaries and empowering yourself and staying committed to yourself. Making sure that you're going to flip that sign or turn it on if it's a neon sign, right? Yeah. You're old school, are you going to flip the sign? So what are you going to do, right? So yeah, and I think so many people that I've been connecting with, like you and Anthony and Dwellin and everybody, it's we all love what we do and we all work so hard and sometimes that store be open late, super late.
Definitely.
Right? And it's true, some days we'll have days we're open a little bit longer, and then some days we on vacation. So
yeah, some days I have a teenager running my shop, and some days grown adults there. So yes, I agree with you 100%. Now, another thing to help us with, let's say my PPE isn't right, because we've all had times in our lives where things shift. You may lose your passion, you may, lose your peace, and you may lose your empowerment. I know we've all dealt with imposter syndrome and things like that before. What are some tips that you would give us to kind of push past those?
Yeah, one of the tips I would give for imposter syndrome, and the only reason that comes to mind right now is because I totally was dealing with imposter syndrome hardcore because I'm getting ready to graduate. And so the imposter syndrome was hitting hard because I kept thinking, Alex, something's going to happen and you're not going to graduate. And like all these scenarios are running through my head. And I'm like, wait, hold up. Then the rational part of me comes back. And this is another thing I want people to think about too. Is that, everybody's human. We all have these emotions. It's just, how are you going to intervene? What new thing are you going to do now that you weren't doing before that's going to stop that? Because I'm who I am and those thoughts are starting to come, but old version of me, before I started practicing and doing these things every day, I would have let all of that just pile on, and I would have been a mess and a wreck and a disaster. But the new me, the me that is more in tune and more self-aware is like, no, that all doesn't make sense. That's not who you are. We got to stop that. And so just being self-aware to pick up on those thought patterns and that script that you're running in your head all the time is such a, what do I want to say? Not sort of like a milestone, but it's like if you have got to that place, like you're in the right direction if you're already able to pick up on that. So kudos to you if you figure that out about yourself. That's so huge, because so many people just are blind to that and just let that keep going and going and going, and then are like, well, I don't understand why this is happening in my life. And it's like, well, you're letting that happen. So being aware and stopping it in its tracks. And then the other part about imposter syndrome is it's not a bad thing. And this is my philosophy on it. If you agree, you agree. If you don't, you don't, whatever. This is how I feel about it. I love imposter syndrome. I embrace it. I lean into it. I love it. And the way that, man, my throat is a mess this morning. The way that I think about it is, if I didn't care, if I didn't give a shit, then this wouldn't be a problem. I wouldn't be feeling like this. But because I do care, and because I am invested, and because I am so invested in what I'm talking about and who I am and the journey that I'm on, I care. And so I care if I'm not showing up 100%. I care. And so that's where that imposter syndrome comes in, because you're like, am I going to do that great of a job? Why are people even wanting to listen to me? All of those things, whatever it is that you're saying to yourself, we all say some of the same things and we all say different things. It just is what it is. And just pick up on that. And one of the things that I had talked to somebody about this before. She was starting a new job and she was just very doubtful, and she had all these thoughts in her head. And I was like, girl, I said, every time you get a thought, I said, just get a piece of paper out and write that negative thought, that doubt, self-doubt, whatever it is, write it out. I said, then write the opposite of it. I said, because this is your script that you're going to write here. I said, we're going to write a new script right next to it. And for every negative thought, self-doubt, whatever it is, right next to it, you write the opposite, because that's what I want you saying to yourself. And that's what I want you reading from. And that's what I want you looking at. And so she loved that. And so that's what she started doing. She started reading from that positive, that opposite, that opposite list of that. And that's just the thing. That imposter syndrome, that just means that you really care and that you want to do a good job. So lean into it, embrace it, and be glad that you feel like that, because there's people going through this world that don't care and do not have your best intentions. And those are the people that you want to stay away from. So
yes, yeah. That's the power of yet, where you can say that negative thing, but say yet at the end of it. It gives it a whole new meaning. So yes.
Yeah. And I see Yermi. Hey, Yermi, he's fantastic. He does some great stuff. Yeah. He says he does not believe in imposter syndrome. Right. You can call it that, whatever you want to do, but that's that feeling. That is that feeling. Some people don't even know what imposter syndrome is. Honestly, they're like, what are you talking about? And that's just what it is. It's that self-doubt feeling that you do. And it's an unhealthy mindset, just like he says. And you have to work on yourself and use tools and be grateful, affirmations, get rid of those negative thoughts, taking ownership, just like we said, and inspiring. Yeah. And he says a powerful thing there too. He says inspiring himself, which, yes. And I've talked about this on some of the live streams that I've done. I think, and anybody feel free to disagree with me, right? We're all about conversation here, but I think that it's very easy as a person like me sitting here to motivate other people. I think it's very easy to inspire other people, but to actually, for somebody to do the work, they have to do the work. So, people, oh, you're so inspiring, you're so motivating, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, yeah, that's great. But are you doing anything with it? Are you doing anything about your life? And what he says is so important, inspiring yourself. You have to be the one to inspire yourself. You have to be the one who wants to do the work and get better and improve. And whatever it is that you feel like you're lacking, that you need to do that for yourself. Nobody can do that for you. And that's what, that imposter syndrome, that unhealthy mindset, that's what you really got to work on. So he brings up a really great point there. Really great point.
Yes, and I love that he says taking ownership as well, because that was another big one for me. It's like when I look back and I take that power back from someone else, saying, I'm not a victim. I have control over this situation. So he's absolutely right. Taking ownership is a huge key to it.
Yeah. Yeah. And, I've seen a lot of that in the healthcare space with patients, and, the body is going to tell you the truth, right? We got you hooked up to those monitors, and they're going to tell me your heart rate and your blood pressure. And if things start going up and I'm looking out from the nurse's station and I see things happening on there, I know you're up to something in your room.
So when we've had that extra donut or two would come in.
Exactly. And just like, with diabetes, and we're looking at blood work and A1C levels, and, we know what you've been up to. You might tell us one thing, but we know it's something else. And, taking ownership. And that's why doing so much of that education at the bedside before patients go home to their lives and all the other outside influences. It's like, and that's what can be so challenging about nursing and having patients for such a limited amount of time, is what impact can I make before this patient leaves? What can I educate them on? What can I tell them about before they go home, so that maybe they don't come back with this same problem? Or maybe it's not as bad when they come back, if it's somebody with a chronic illness. What can I teach them? What can I talk to them? How can I talk to them? What can I get through to them? And I think a lot of it comes down to instilling that empowerment in your patient. Like, you can do this. You can take ownership of this. You can do something about this. You are not a victim. Doing some coaching, right? A lot of times nursing is so similar to coaching. You got to coach, you got to hype that patient up. You got to tell them they could do it, give them the resources. And so much of really great healthcare is that continued support and that follow-up, and reaching out to those patients and still having that connection with them, and not just sending them home and being like, deuces, see you later, till the next time you have a problem. That's not what we want. And that's is such a huge problem right now in healthcare. But if we can coach that patient, educate that patient while we have them, and make an impact on them, and instill that ownership of them, of their bodies, of their disease, whatever it might be, I think that will go such a long way in improving health outcomes for patients and for caregivers in the healthcare profession. The whole health system in general will be greatly improved if we can start focusing a little bit more on that.
All right. So anyone else have any questions for Alex?
Any questions?
All right. So Alex, for you.
Yeah.
What is next for you? Where can we see you? Where can we find you? Where can we talk to you?
Oh, Chihuahua. So I am going to be Dr. Rosa on May 7th. I'm talking it into the universe right now, May 7th.
Round of applause, everybody. Round of applause.
Yeah, so May 7th, I'll be Dr. Rosa. And I've been spending the last couple weeks actually really thinking about what is next for me. I've kind of been doing the who am I kind of question, and seeing how that's going to line up and look for me, and how my life is going to look like as I kind of go into this next phase, because so much of my life has been being in school. My gosh, I've been in school for years and years and years and years. And, there's going to be a point now where I'm going to have a break, or I don't even know what I might do next, education wise. I love education. I love learning. I love growing. So I think that's always going to be a part of my life. But I'm still definitely going to be out there with Spice and talking about the holistic health and wellness. And I still want to continue to do coaching and education and training, and do presentations and speaking, and just spreading the message about Spice and about PPE, and for a balanced life, just add Spice. And I'm actually going to start talking more about brain body balance is going to be my next kind of venture out there, and talking more about that. And I see Dr. Nupi is on, and we're going to be combining forces. Holistic forces are going to be colliding. Oh my God, I just had like a big Marvel, a big Marvel like moment is what I was like picturing in my head with that. But Dr. Nupi's overseas over there in the UK, and she has something called Fizz, that she Find Your Fizz, that she talks about, and I'm sure she'll talk about that when she does her segment during the summit. And we just started talking, and we were vibing, and so we're going to have a show together coming out soon as well. And you know, all of that is like due to kidney trails and the community and connection. And so people can find me all over social. I'm on all the places. I'm on Facebook, and I'm on LinkedIn, Instagram, YouTube, anywhere you can find me. Or you can go to my website, getyourspice.net, and you can connect with me there. I love meeting new people. You can get some time on my calendar. I've got lots of different programs that I run, so you can go through and check out my website. I love doing speaking events and coming and doing presentations. So if you're looking for somebody to speak about health and wellness, or workplace wellness, career wellness, any of that, I definitely would be down to help you in that area. And where else can people find me? I think that's it. Just connect with me on social media. I'm on all the platforms. Alexandria Rosa, RN. You'll find me on all the places.
All right. Now, 2 things before we close up. You said you like to cook. What's your favorite thing to cook?
Okay, my favorite. Okay, it's gonna sound so Puerto Rican-y of me. So I'm Puerto Rican. I'm Latina, and so I grew up cooking with my mom. I learned how to cook from my mom, from my family. And so the one thing that I'm known for is my rice and beans. So my arroz con gandules. I make the red rice with the little pigeon peas in them. That's my thing. And everybody knows me for that. And then the other thing that I make are pastelillos, or like empanadas. They're called pastelillos, where they're like the meat turnover that you deep fry. Those are the other things that I'm like known for. I used to like sell those and make them and sell them for different people. They would be like, I need like 3 dozen. And I'm like, okay. So, so I would do that. So that's probably the one thing that I'm known for, and that I do enjoy cooking, doing that, because if you look at my Instagram or my Facebook, there's always pictures of me cooking with my kids. And I feel like that's very important, to cook with your family and to cook with your kids and show them what healthy foods actually are, and to do it that way and get them involved so that they can actually cook for themselves and take care of themselves and know how to use a stove and a frying pan and all the things. So I always have pictures, and when I'm making the pastelillos, all the kids help. They all help, and I've got lots of videos of my 4-year-old, and he's putting the meat in and putting water around the edge, and then he folds it, and then he uses the fork to smash it up. And so it's a great time to be together and to learn and to talk and to connect. And that's probably why it's my favorite, is because of that time together.
There you go, making food and memories at the same time.
That's right.
All right, so we want to thank you for your time today. And before you leave, I want you to go ahead if you have some last words of encouragement to close us out. And the floor is yours.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, thank you, everybody. And thank you, Anthony Reed, for this vision that you have. And I'm so proud of you. Oh my gosh, I'm so proud of Anthony. And everybody at the Kidney Trails team. It's just been amazing meeting everybody. And if you're watching this, connect with each and every presenter, each and every person that is commenting, connect with them, because these are real people. These are people that are going to help you in your life, inspire you, motivate you, that are going to connect you to bigger and better things in your life. So definitely connect. And the other thing I would say is, live your life, add spice to your life. Don't just go through life, just living it, actually live your life and do things that you want to do that make you happy, that embrace all those parts of PPE for yourself, the passion, the peace, and empowerment. And for a balanced life, just add spice. That's what I got to say.
All right. Thank you. Thank you so much, Alex.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Guys.
Thank you, Tim. Thank you for this.
You're welcome. You're welcome. I had a blast. I learned a lot. We'll go work on my PPE here at lunchtime.
All right, honey. All right. All right.